Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, Saturday morning, we're going to talk about machine maintenance. We're going to talk about machine maintenance next level. We all know about the basics. We know that you need to, keep your threads in the path. We know that you need to keep your bobbin case properly oiled. We know that you need to keep your machine oiled. Good morning, Barb. Good morning. Glad to see you here. Um, so yeah, those are all the basics. That's what they tell you when they do your machine training. Just the basics. But what happens after that? What happens when you need to do the deep cleaning? Do you know how to do the deep cleaning? So that's what we're going to do. And this is going to be a multi-part machine maintenance thing. I figured might take us about 4 months to get through. We're going to, I'm going to schedule it for like the third Saturday of the month, and we'll go through each major section of the machine. So, with that in mind, we are going to take a look at a picture. Hang on, because I can never remember which one to click. Look at that. Yep, that's my machine, one of my machines. And I think the first thing, um, one of the things that one of the things that I think we as machine operators, machine owners should know is what our parts are and why they're there. This first week, some of these pieces are going to be kind of obvious, but we're going to go over it anyways because maybe down the road somebody's watching this um, on the YouTube and they're saying, "My gosh, what is that thing called?" Well, they'll know. All right. So here we go. This first part right here, like I said, it's pretty obvious. That's your thread stand. It's where all your threads are going to sit. All right. And then they're going to travel up to the thread tree. Called a thread tree because it has all these branches. Yep, looks just like a, well, maybe not just like a tree, but so yeah, the thread goes up to the thread tree and it travels. It travels to the thread tubes. Now, a lot of machines, a lot of the smaller machines do not have these tubes. And some people say, well, you don't really need them. I want to tell you why they're there. Okay. When your machine, when your machine is stitching 900 stitches per minute, right? And it stops and it moves from needle one all the way over to needle 15. Well, the thread stand doesn't go with it. No, it's just the head is moving. And if your thread coming from the thread tree to the needle path, to the thread path, is not contained in that tube, it's possible that it's going to pull out loose and get tangled up in the threads next to it, which in turn pulls it through and causes a real nasty bird's nest up at the top. So, thread tubes. Some machines don't have them. Machines that do have them use them. Um, it doesn't seem like a lot. It's not a big important part, but it is important. Now, what happens if you accidentally or don't notice or somehow your thread, you no longer have thread going through your thread tube? You've emptied the spool, you lost the thread chicken game, and now you have to rethread your machine from the thread stand up through the tree, through the tubes, and then back down through all your tensioners. How do you do that? Well, some machines come with a hook, a wire hook, to allow you to pull the thread through. Other people say, well, if you put the thread in there, you can take your canned air and spritz it, and it will push the thread through the to the bottom. And yeah, that can work. Um, I've never had any experience with it working from the start, but it can work. But some of these tubes are not solid tubes. They're not like that aquarium tubing that is solid and has no gaps in it. These are springs. You can pull them apart and they're all coils. So if you try to spritz air through it, the air's just going to go out through the sides and your thread's not going to push through. So let me tell you what I did. Um, and it's kind of related. I took a hand embroidery needle. Maybe it was a cross stitch needle. It was one of those larger needles that's really kind of thick and bulky. Has a great big long eye, so it's really simple to put the thread through. And I cut it in half and sanded down that raw edge. And now I have a weight, and it doesn't have to be huge. I have a weight. I can tie the thread to one end, pull the tube up, drop it down, and it will fall all the way to the bottom. And then I just pull the thread through and do my threading. Yeah, easy peasy. Um, Speaking of threading, here we go. We're going back to parts. Parts is parts, right? So we have our upper tensioners. Now, not everybody has two rows of tensioners, tension knobs, but those that do, the upper tension knobs make what I call global large changes. All right. One turn of this tension knob, in my experience, is equal to 5 turns of the lower tension knob. So I call this one global changes for large changes, and this one fine tunes. Okay, so you have upper tension knobs and lower tension knobs. In between here, we all know that there's still some more guides. This little ditty right here, excuse me. And again, some machines do not have a separate thread sensor. Some machines have the thread sensor built into the tension knob. But the thread sensor is a device that, because the thread is around it, is encircles the sensor. When the thread pulls, it turns the sensor. And as long as that sensor is turning, the machine believes it's making a stitch. When the sensor stops turning, when the upper thread stops turning or pulling, it believes that there is a thread break. Now, that thread break could be caused because your bobbin is empty, which is a good thing because we want to change the bobbin. Um, it's not going to be an upper thread break. It's going to be a bobbin change. But you still check everything, make sure everything's good, change your bobbin out. and then continue, back up a little bit, go forward a little bit. And then again, like I said, after the sensors, we have the lower tension knobs, and those make minute, smaller changes, fine tuning. Okay, so we talked about some of the parts of our machine. We've talked about the pathing. Before I go any further, I want to talk to you some more about this tension thing. And let me go back even further. What prompted this series of maintenance videos that I want to do, this maintenance uh, broadcast that I want to do, I recently attended a webinar held by Gnold, hosted by Gnold, presented by my favorite embroidery machine tech, Bill Garvin. You can Google him. He's amazing. And the things in there, and I trust him. He's been doing this for 100 years. Um, I take what he says and run with it. So here's something that he says. When you get your machine, when a new embroidery person gets their machine, the first thing they want to do is turn those knobs. They want to touch them. They want to turn them. Resist doing that, very much so. Do not do that until you know what effect they're going to have. According to, again, my favorite machine tech, Bill Garvin, those knobs, all of them, are not meant to be changed unless you're changing thread weights. Okay? The machine is set up for the standard, industry standard 40 weight thread. If you think your machine is not set correctly, is not tensioned correctly, run a tension test. Run a tension test and look for yourself. If you've got nice tight stitches on the top, then odds are your tension is set correctly for the upper tension. All of your tension will be changed, adjusted overall in the bobbin. If you have to change your upper tension, it should only be for different weight threads, 60 weight thread, 70 weight thread. Uh, what are the thicker wool threads? They need to have a looser tension. So those are the reasons you should change that tension. Otherwise, you should pretty much leave it alone. Um, where are we going next? Okay. So you have your machine and you're having issues. The machine faults thread breaks. Um, the thread keeps pulling out of the needle. The first thing that you need to do is you need to check your thread path. Many times, whatever thread issue you're having can be corrected by checking your thread path. Maybe it's popped out of the thread sensor. Maybe it's not in this tension disc, or maybe it's tangled up in one of the lower tension knobs. Check your thread path. Always make sure it's in good place. All right. Now, in my experience, a lot of times it pulls out of the sensor. It just pops out. It's going so fast it suddenly stops and it just pops out. I'm not watching it that closely to see exactly when it pops out, but it pops out. And I get a false thread break because the thread is still in the needle and the needle is still in the fabric. So this is what I do with my thread path. Any place that my thread has to go around a disc, tension disc, the thread sensor, the lower tension disc, I wrap it twice. So it comes through here and I bring it around. Comes down here and I bring it around twice. It comes down here, I bring it around, and then come and finish my path. And I do this so that the risk of it popping out of place is minimized. And I have found that even though I have doubled up my turns around my disc, it has not affected my tension. It still pulls through. It still has good tension. It still maintains good tension, and it doesn't pop out. Just a thought. You might want to try it. If you do, that's wonderful and it works. That's wonderful. If not, well, take it back. It's just that easy. Now, while we're here, we're going to talk about maintenance of this area. Now, you might not think there's too much you can do, but there is something you can do. And, we just need to do a deep cleaning. Get out your cotton swabs and your rubbing alcohol. Get some unwaxed, very important, unwaxed dental floss. And we're going to deep clean the machine. We're going to unthread from our thread tubing all the way down to the needle. All right, we're just going to unthread. You can take this whole knob assembly off and clean it and then put it all back. Take your floss and run it around the disc. This assembly, you can take this apart as well and clean it and then put it all back. The only thing you need to remember is where the knob was originally. And what I do with that is as I am taking the knob off, I count my turns. All right. I count the turns, if it's 5 turns, if it's 10 turns, so I know to put it all back at the same number of turns. And remember, this area does a fine tuning. So if you're off 1 or 2 turns, it's not going to make a big difference. This one needs to be a little more precise. I also, try to take a look at the post sticking up through the knob to give myself an idea of exactly where. And take a Sharpie marker and make a little mark and screw down to that mark. There are different ways that you can track where your knob is so that you can put it back. So use your dental floss, use your rubbing alcohol and Q-tips, and clean the area. Okay, so that's basically, for the top of the machine, that's basically what I've got for you. In future maintenance episodes, we're actually going to come down here to the next section and talk about the take-up levers, the reciprocators, the felt pads. We're going to take the face. I'm going to try to take the face of the machine off so I can get some pictures. If I can't get that off, I will find some pictures so we can talk about that. I know this is going to be kind of a shorter episode because they're really we've pretty much gone over the top part of the machine. The next one will be a little more in depth because, like I said, we're going to be talking about this area. Suppose it'd help if I didn't block. So we're going to be talking about this area of the machine, and we're going to get into the innards. But so while I'm here, I just want to say I will not be here the next couple of weeks. I'm going to the DAX in Kansas City next week, the end of February. And then the week after that, I'm going to the Everything Embroidery Market in Lafayette, Louisiana. If I can, I'll do a live um, maybe a little walking tour of the show so you can get a see and say hi to a few people. But with that being said, I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to wish you all a great weekend and a great week. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email. Don't hesitate to send me a message. I will help in any way I can. Alrighty then. You guys have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.